remember one time, if I have the screenshot, I'm going to put it up. But I say 7-Eleven and Jack is like, dude, I'm so tired. Okay. And
welcome back to the Jack's podcast. I'm Jack.
I'm also Jack.
And right now, my back hurts a lot. I have a pillow behind me and an ice pack because we're playing broom ball with InterVarsity, and as I was being a two-way player, I was on defense and I threw my back out, and so it's in a lot of pain. So I'm trying to ice it right now.
So we played against Cal State Fullerton. Absolutely mobbed on them.
Yeah.
7-2. I want to put out that I did put up 2 shots. I think it was like an MJ Pippen flu game type of vibe.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Dude, you know what's crazy is like a lot of people got mad injured.
Dude, the helmet setup was like genuinely unsafe, and like for how like low-key like soft InterVarsity is for like protection and stuff like that, like you have to be like, it's very like structured. This was not structured like at all. The helmets did not have straps.
Nope.
And like there were several people, I think, yeah, we'll toss up a clip of my knees. Like they were literally bruised to like the bone. They were just so shot by the end of it. And it was like there were 3 people that got like severely injured. One of our boys, Jesus, like slipped like just straight onto the ice. Like his face just like hit the ice, and at the end of it he was like genuinely down bad and like was actually hurting. And then I remember I didn't witness that, but I remember I saw a dude from Cal State Fullerton who like slipped backwards, and like the helmet flew off of your head before like you hit the ground. So we just straight up like bashed his head onto the ice, and it was incredibly unsafe. We had to sign a waiver.
Yeah. I got lucky because I put my helmet back, the first one that I got, because it didn't fit very well. And at the very bottom of the crate with all of the helmets, there was one that was really flat, but it had a little like noose, I think, or like
strap.
Yeah, it had a strap, but it didn't have a clip, and so I made a makeshift clip, and I was able to keep it on the whole time, and it didn't come off. So I got very blessed with that. But I feel like no one knows what broom ball is, but it's basically like hockey, except you have shoes instead of skates, and you're using a broom instead of a stick, and instead of a puck, it's a mini soccer ball. And it was a lot of fun, but I sustained a severe back injury.
I think the crazy thing is that we played at we rented out like an ice rink that was like, I think where the Anaheim Ducks like practice or whatever. Yeah. And the equipment was like provided by like the rink. It wasn't like we brought our own helmets or anything. And it's like, I don't know how they haven't been sued, but anyways.
Me neither. But after that, we went to 7-Eleven, and that's actually what we're going to be talking about today is 7-Eleven. If you guys don't know, we go to 7-Eleven very regularly at night, and we will get a Slurpee and post it on Instagram with a song. And it's something that we've been doing for over a year now.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I know a lot of you really want to know why we do it and how it started and all of that. So we're going to be talking about that today. And we're going to talk about the origins, the why, favorite memories, and stuff like that. And I guess I'll start by explaining how we got to where we are today. So it was the first night back for second semester last year of our freshman year. I drove back with my mom, and then it was, I think, 10 p.m. and she was like, I'm going to go to the hotel. Goodbye. And I met up with you, and you had gotten back a few days earlier, but we were just hanging out and we didn't really know what to do. So we walked over to our friend Lisa's dorm, and we kind of just hung out there for like 30, 45 minutes. And we were just chatting, catching up, talking about break. And then Jack was fiending for some Taco Bell. And so we decided, it was like 12 a.m. at this point. Yeah. And so we decided we're going to go walk to Taco Bell because none of us had cars. And so the way it works is at Chapman, there's a bunch of buildings for the dorms for the freshmen. And so there's a parking lot. And when you leave the parking lot, that campus is right there, but if you take a left out of the parking lot and you go down like a half mile or so, there's a Taco Bell just right there. So
It's the most ratchet Taco Bell ever.
it is. But we walked over there, and then they were closed. And so
Well, they were open. So it said 24 hours on the website, and we're like, oh, word. But it's like after 10 p.m., it's like drive-through only, so we couldn't go.
I don't know why that is. Like that started after COVID, and no restaurants have reverted to being 24 hours anymore. It's kind of sad, but so we were kind of just standing there. We couldn't go through the drive-through without a car. And so Lisa looked up on her phone and saw that there was a 7-Eleven nearby, and we were like, all right, let's just go there. And so we walked there, and everyone got a Slurpee. No one got food. Like, Jack didn't even get food. He got a Slurpee. And
whose idea was it to get a Slurpee? Was it Lisa's?
it might have been Lisa's. It might have been mine, because I know I used to drink Slurpees a lot.
Yeah, dude, I remember one time we were in the car with like Wyatt, and somebody mentioned, I think it was like, that was in November, and this was in January of 2023. So in November of 2022, Wyatt was like, yeah, Slurpees are like fire. They're like super cheap. So
I
think
was
that's what
talking about it.
Okay, so you were talking about it. So then that's like what sparked it, probably.
Yeah, so I got a double extra large, which is 52 ounces, 3 pounds.
We're gonna pop one up on the screen. This thing is like huge.
It is gigantic. It is so big, but I finished it.
Yeah.
So we get our Slurpees and we leave, and then the night's over, whatever. And then I think just the next night, right after, we hang out again, and then we go to Lisa's room again, and we're like, would you like to go get 7-Eleven with us? And so we go again, but this time, I don't know why, but I just thought taking a picture of a double extra large Slurpee would be funny to post on Instagram. So I think it was right next to McDonald's. There's a McDonald's on the way to 7-Eleven.
So it was like on top of like the M sign.
Yeah, there's an M sign. I think I put it there and took a picture, and I posted it. And then a couple nights later, we went to 7-Eleven again, and I took another picture and I posted it. And it just became a thing that I started doing. We would go like 3 times a week maybe, because classes, sometimes we wouldn't be able to go out late at night, and we only go at night. We only go past 11
it's not
p.m.
like a daytime activity. But so usually it would be like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, because I had like, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. No, it'd be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, because I had 8 a.m.s those days, so I couldn't like go that late, because like we would sometimes leave at like 1 a.m. to go. And it's like, from where we live now, it's like 4 miles like there and back, but at the time it was like 3.6 or something
Like that. Yeah.
So we would like leave late, so we only like, we would have gone like 5 times a week, but it was like, because I had like a calm 219 8 a.m. I couldn't go most days.
Yeah, but after that, it just became a regular thing, and people started noticing. People were like, why are you posting this on your story? And people in InterVarsity would be like, oh, are you going to 7-Eleven after this, after a Bible study or something like that? And it just became a thing that everyone would ask about, but nobody actually knew why we were doing it. And they just didn't understand. Yeah. It's like, we'd be like, it's just a fun thing. And they'd be like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I think, well, he also like, so at that time I wasn't posting anything on my story. I was like, I would get one like every now and then, just because I was like, all right, this is like, I have no reason to keep buying a Slurpee. But the day that he did decide to post something on his story, he used a Beatles song. Yeah. So do you know what the first Beatles song was?
Tomorrow Never Knows.
Tomorrow Never Knows. So he started to post like, and the idea was that he would use every Beatles song ever and that's like when we'd stop going to 7-Eleven and cut it off.
There's like 215 Beatles songs, I think. Yeah.
So he started that, and then we came back this or last semester technically, and I was like, I think I'm gonna start to also use Juice WRLD instead of the Beatles, because I have no idea what the Beatles are. and Juice World is, well, I don't know their songs. And
Yeah.
Juice World is like the only artist I know like his songs verbatim basically. So I don't know why, or I used a photo of like the Slurpee cup and then like just the 7-Eleven, and I captioned it like the start of my series, and I used the song Doomsday, and in that song Juice World says the Wizard of OZ, but it sounds like he says OC, which is where we go to school, Orange County. So it was like a double entendre in that kind of sense. But yeah, people would be like, I don't get why like you're going to this. And they also like, the thing that baffled them like the most was like the fact that we would walk, because ever since we started this, I had a car last semester, but Jack didn't have a car, so I was driving my car, but we wouldn't drive to 7-Eleven. Like we'd walk like the 4 miles, and people like never understood. And I think like the moment where it switched, where people were like, all right, something is like wrong with you, is we had a Bible study, there was a Bible study going on, and I lived like at the time right next to where the Bible study was happening, and I like walked past it, and then everybody was like saying my name to like go into the room, and I was like, yeah, like I can't go tonight, Jack is sick. So I was gonna walk to 7-Eleven in the freezing cold, and get him a double XL, and I walked all the way back and delivered him a Slurpee.
He did. I remember that. I got really sick randomly one week, and I had like body sores and a really bad sore throat, a cough, a headache, everything. So I was kind of just immobile and sitting in my room. And I remember I got a text from Jack, and then he told me to like go to the door, and I opened it, and he was holding a double extra large cherry Slurpee, and I could not believe it.
Yeah.
Like that thing saved me. That thing healed me.
It revived him.
Because apparently like popsicles are good for a sore throat, and
Sure.
that's what like, Google says. It's like when you have a sore throat, like eat popsicles. But
Like
if that's true, then drinking a Slurpee should have the same effect. And so I think that's actually what healed my sore throat.
Yeah. I actually ended up writing a story about this for one of my classes. They said pick a place that is meaningful to you, and I chose 7-Eleven, but like the whole like thesis of the paper was that it's not actually 7-Eleven that's important and like what's fun. It's like going there and like the walk and like just talking about things, because it's like a time to just like relax and just like low-key just like debrief like what's ever going on in our life. And like there are some times when we're just like when I lived so we live together now, but I lived in Prawley and he lived in Henley.
They're like right next to each other.
And we would go like late at night and stuff, and sometimes like I would just send a text saying like 7-Eleven, and then I remember one time, if I have the screenshot, I'm gonna put it up, but I say 7-Eleven and Jack is like, dude, I'm so tired. Okay. And that's just what it was, because it wasn't something that like required energy. I think like social battery for some people can be like a real thing. Like being out all day is like exhausting, and having to be in that like kind of environment, especially as like in a club or something that like promotes the idea of community and really being engaged with one another. It's like sometimes it was just like we wouldn't talk for like 45 minutes. We'd just walk and like we'd dwell in our own thoughts, and if something came up, like something came up. And I think like honestly Jack was like the first person in my life where I could just like sit and be still, or walk technically, and like not say anything, but it wasn't like awkward, because sometimes if you run into a shorty and you end up having to walk to class with her and don't talk, like that's awkward. But like the way like our friendship developed was through these 7-Eleven runs, and it was like just, it didn't require anything. Like all you had to do was just be there and show up, and it was something like we looked forward to. And we'll get into this later, like posting like songs that like lyrically tie into like the photo in some sense, and we like plan out these photos. Sometimes the whole time we're just like plotting about like what we're gonna do. But I think one of the coolest memories I have is we would go to 7-Eleven, come back to the dorm, and then it's like right in the middle, it's like there's Henley and then there's Prawley, and we would always just dap each other up so cleanly. And towards the end of the semester, Jack had an unfortunate like roommate situation where he was literally counting down the days until he was no longer roommates with this guy, and he was like, all right, I have 21 days left, I have 20 days left, I have 19 days left. And it was just like it was a getaway in some sense to go like away from his current situation and just like get out. I remember sometimes he's like, I cannot stand this person right now, like I need to just go and dip to 7-Eleven. And then like we knew at that point that we were gonna live together our sophomore year, so we knew that like the infamous dap would be like there would be one final one where we like had to part ways after the 7-Eleven walk. And I remember like going back and like praying like, God, would this just be the cleanest dap up ever? And it was so clean. It was like the dap heard around the world.
It was so loud.
And it was just like a really good way to end our freshman year and stuff. So we go back and come back from over summer break, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start like my own series, and I'll use Juice WRLD, and he has like thousands of unreleased songs, but those aren't available on Spotify and like Instagram music stores. But I was like, he has about half of where the Beatles, or like the amount of songs that the Beatles have, so like I have to catch up in some sense. So we would go like literally at one point it was like every day for like
It was so
2
bad.
weeks, and it started to like the Slurpees is like never why we went. Like at some point like we got sick of like the cherry or the red until they started adding like new flavors and stuff. But it's just such an awesome time. We low-key one time there's a National Slurpee Day, and they had like a thing where you can like bring in like any size cup Slurpee or whatever, and you can like fill it up for like free or like $1.
I think it's $1. Yeah.
And they had like a sign where you like measure it, and it's like a giant sign. And I was like, okay, I really want to take this home, but like I can't do it without stealing it. So our boy, I think his name is Carlos, who works there.
No.
What's his name?
Jose.
Okay. Jose's the GOAT. Shout out Jose. Like they actually like know us. Like we walk in,
Yeah.
just give him the head nod. He's like, all right, like these aren't hooligans just coming in. Like they're just getting their Slurpee. And I wanted it so bad, but I didn't want to steal it. So I was just like, can I take this? He's like, sure, but you didn't hear it from me. And that's like the only interaction we've ever had with him, other than like just checking out at the cashier.
Yeah. That guy's awesome. We know, we don't know, but we know most of the workers there. At the one location that we were going to our freshman year, there were always only 3 workers at a time. There was a lady, and then there were 2 dudes, and one of them was Jose, the one who let us take the sign. But yeah, they knew us as just the guys that come in and get a Slurpee, and that's it. Like we never caused a commotion, we never stole anything, we never were loud or annoying or anything. We would just buy a Slurpee, and that's it. And we were probably their favorite customers.
Yeah, because it's like we're not causing any issues or anything. And in our freshman year, the 7-Eleven that we went to was, so there's multiple that we go to, and there's like different names for it. So the one that we went to our freshman year, which we mostly go to now, is called the OG, because it's like that's where we started it all. And then this is actually like low-key a crazy God moment, but the one that is like super close to the K where we live, we just call that the Close. And I remember one time like I had like gone, and it was like at like close to the end of the month, which is like when I get my allowance, and I had like no shekels left, and like you needed to have like a rewards membership to like get a deal on one of these drinks. And I started talking to the guy working the cashier. His name is Christian, and I was like, I'm like super broke, like can you just like let this deal, like the 2 for $4 deal or whatever, go through. And he's like, why should I do that for you? And I was like, I don't know. It's like, I forget what I said, but I said something about God. He's like, you know God? And I'm like, yeah, like I talk to God every day. Like he's the Lord and Savior of my life. He's like, I'm a Christian as well. Like, and I'm actually trying to find like a housing situation right now. He's like, I don't have like any place to live. And I started talking to him like a little more, and I was like, can I pray for you right now? And he was like, no, I can't do it in this like workspace, which I get, because I think that like that could coincide with like the rules or like whatever he has in his job. And we got to go like outside afterwards, just me and Jack, and like we just started to pray for him that like the Lord would bless him. And it's like, he didn't give me like $1,000 or anything, but he gave something like with his heart. And I think that like the Lord is gonna bless that man like beyond measure.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool to like see that you can give something that like means so much without giving something that has such like value or like worldly value. And I don't know, like we see him, I think we saw him last night, and like the Slurpee machine like was down, so we had to go to a different one. But every time like we go in there, like we can see like how happy he is. And it's like he could still be homeless, but it's like he has Jesus, and that's all you need. And I think it's so cool that like God like is just with him even in the midst of something that's like really difficult.
Yeah, I think it's always a joy to see him, because whenever we come in, he's always like, "Oh, you two again?" as a joke, because we go pretty often. But yeah, it's just so cool to see him. There was one time where I think it was Halloween, we went and we were wearing like we were dressed as Walt and Jesse from Breaking Bad, but we went to the cashier register and he was just like, "Nah, it's on the house. You guys got it."
Like that's so nice,
so kind.
Yeah. And sometimes like I'm from the East Coast, so it's like when it's cold here, it's like 55 degrees, which is like normal temperatures in Connecticut. And I would wear shorts, and like last night he was like, "Oh, you're wearing pants this time." Like he's just clowning on me because I was wearing shorts. And yeah, he's just a goat.
I think back to when it comes to posting, I always used a Beatles song. I don't really know why necessarily I started. I just thought the song Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles would kind of work with the idea that I'm posting a giant Slurpee on my story. And it doesn't make any sense, but the song is also just so obscure and psychedelic that I just thought it would look pretty funny. But after that, I just kept using a different song, and then I decided, I'm going to try and use every single song, which is 215. But sometimes I don't really correlate the image with the song, but I try to now. Back when we first started, I would try and match a song with the aesthetic of the photo. So there was one time I took a photo on top of a parking structure, like the 7th floor of a parking structure, and it was kind of just the Slurpee looking over Orange County, and I used the song Across the Universe, and I just thought it worked. And then there was another time that I took a .5 in the middle of the street, and the Slurpee was in the middle of the street, and it made the road look really long, so I used the song The Long and Winding Road.
Yeah.
And the Beatles had a psychedelic era, and so sometimes whenever I'm taking a photo, I'll try and either put a filter on it, or I'll shake the camera to make it look blurry and just look weird, and then I'll use a psychedelic photo. Like there's one where I shook it in such a way that there was multiple Slurpees in a row, and Jack was also standing there, and there were multiple Jacks in a row, and I used the song Strawberry Fields Forever, which is just super psychedelic. And yeah, right now I try and incorporate lyrics. So last night, because of my back injury, which you guys know about, I was walking really slow, and Jack was not being considerate of me, and he was walking very fast.
This dude was walking at like probably slower than a turtle. And I said, like, you need to walk faster.
I was trying my absolute hardest. You were not being sympathetic. Yeah. But anyways, I was walking and he was really far ahead, so I took a photo of my Slurpee with him 25, 30 feet in front of me, and I use the song Slow Down. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. We'll just use a song, either title or lyric, and try and take a photo that makes sense. So I think you do that a lot. Like, what are your posts about?
Mainly mine are like lyrical, and it's really tough because Juice WRLD is like not like he's was a very secular artist, and I don't think it's that case with the Beatles necessarily. It's not like they're preaching the gospel. It's not like, but they're not like the most secular.
Yeah.
And so I try like my best with certain things, but I remember when I told you guys about the girl from economics, where she sat next to me, and it was like the final day of like the first semester of my sophomore year. So I used a song that said like the girl of my dreams is sitting right next to me, and it was called Desire. So I thought that was just like a perfect way to wrap up the semester. I think my favorite one ever, either last night probably, was we have a friend named Ava Bella, but people like call her AB sometimes, and there's a song that says like up down right AB cheat code, and I was like, yo, like, do you have like 2 seconds to take a photo like with this Slurpee? So that was one of my favorites. But my best one, or my favorite one, was like Jack and I were leaving the K to go to 7-Eleven, and there is a very pretty woman that like walked by and like caught us off guard completely, and we're friends with her, and she was like, hey, like, what's up? And so we go to 7-Eleven, and the song Hide says there's love at my front door, short notice. And that was funny. And then the night that I met, or like really started to like actually talk and like hang out with a very pretty Christian woman, I was like, all right, I gotta cook. Like, I know that this is like, if there's any, and it's like when she followed me on Instagram, so it's like the first Slurpee post that she'll see. It says, on the other hand, I think I found my future wife. So that one was good. There's so many I'd have to go through. There's one where it says like off three, should have make it 4, like the rings on my Audi. So I took a photo of like someone's Audi.
Audi.
I don't know. It could go both ways.
I don't think so, but
yeah. But so yeah, there's some of my favorites, and if I can think of anything else, like I'll mention it. But I think the main thing that is like really cool is that when we're going on these walks, like sure, sometimes like we're not necessarily talking about like things that are unimportant. Like we're talking about things that actually like have value. Sometimes we're just shooting the like whatever, but sometimes like we would have like, if there was like conflicts or like things that we're going through, we'd be able to like use that opportunity to like really see how Jesus would tackle the problem, and like I think in a lot of instances call each other higher, and like even certain like sins that we struggle with, we would like talk about it and talk about our experiences of like overcoming that sin, and like using those moments to just like one, like get closer to one another, but at the same time like use that as an opportunity to like grow our relationship in Christ.
Going to 7-Eleven is something that I'm going to look back on and say this is one of my favorite memories from college, because it's such a unique experience. I wouldn't say walking with someone a lot is a unique experience, but it's kind of the context that we're in, where we're just walking to 7-Eleven, getting Slurpee, walking back. And these walks are pretty long. Like they're usually between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And yeah, I just think the opportunity to talk about a variety of things, like stories from high school or whatever we're struggling with or whatever we need to kind of talk about to see what we can do better in our lives, how we can change, how we can be called higher, how we can, grow in our faith with God. Like we have a lot of theological and faith-based conversations where we just talk about like, I wonder if Jesus being, omnipresent when he was on earth, did he know that McDonald's was going to be a thing because he knows everything?
Yeah.
I think my favorite posts, it's hard to choose just one because there's been so many that are cool, but I know there's a song called Rain, and one day it was pouring, but we still went to 7-Eleven, and I took a picture underneath the parking structure under the dorm that Jack lived in, and there was a lot of rain still coming down. And so I just took a picture of him, and you could see the rain coming down, and I put like a black and white filter on it, and he was holding the Slurpee, and I just used that song. There was another one where I think it was one of the first ones of last semester, but on our way to 7-Eleven, they're building a Popeyes, and there was like a trailer behind a fence right next to the building that they were building. And Jack climbed the fence and climbed on top of the trailer, and I just took a picture of him like mewing and like looking off in the distance. And I used the song Nowhere Man because he looked stranded and looked like he didn't know what he was doing. Another one is there's a song called Flying, and so
That's so good. Put it up.
yeah, it looks like that, but I asked Jack to throw the Slurpee as high as possible in the air, and I tried to take the photo, but it didn't look good because I had the exposure time on, and I turned off the exposure so that it would just take the single frame of it in the air, and it just looks so sick. It looks so cool.
Yeah, so obviously like the posts are very fun and all, but I think that something that's really like cool, and I think that God recognizes, is that a lot of these times that we go, like even on weekdays but mainly like Fridays and Saturdays, is we always see like kids going back to frat parties or coming back from frat parties or coming back from somewhere like drunk, and that's how they're like choosing to spend their time. And like that's like what they want to do and stuff. And I think that Jack and I could easily go off and like do stuff like that, but we're doing something that is like not all the time, because we're not always talking about God, but like something that honors God in two different ways, where we're trying to grow our relationship with God like on these walks and call like another one of us higher. But at the same time, like we're literally, I think it's like a really cool analogy is that like there's a infamous frat house on the way to 7-Eleven, and it's on the right side of the road, and we're on the left side of the road when we go there. And the way I look at it is like we're set apart from the world. Like we could be going out and getting drunk and going to these parties and stuff, but like we're choosing to have like our own little niche and use that as a way to be different from the world. And we try our best to like sometimes like take people out to dinner and then like be like, hey, do you want to go? And maybe like prevent them from going to things like that. And I think it's like really important for you to find something that you love to do when days of like temptation come. And obviously it's not going to be like 7-Eleven is your thing. Like that's our thing. Like stay off of it. But
Yeah.
like finding whatever you love to do. If you want to do like a Bible study on certain days, like that's cool. But like if you love to go bowling, like go bowling. Like do something that's like honoring to God. And I think a lot of the times that I go and see these people that are coming back from parties or whatever, I'm reminded of like like that's something that I used to do. And I think this like little subconscious thought is like, look at how much like work that I've done in you, and you're not doing these things anymore. You're not indulging these things anymore. But most importantly, like the fun that you're having is the same, if not better, than like those experiences that like dishonor God. And being able to find something that like I really love like and enjoy to do. When I was like struggling to give up like drugs and alcohol, the main thing, it was like I said to God, I was like, I don't think that you can like replace the kind of fun that I'm having. Like to say that sin isn't fun is foolish. Sin is very fun. That's why it's so enticing and people can fall into it, and obviously we fall into it. But it's like I was so worried that God doesn't have the ability to like make me feel like the way like we did. And I remember like talking to my mom one night, and she was like, even if you don't have like as much fun as you do like going out to parties and like drinking and doing all that stuff, like she said, like when you go to sleep at night and you know like the King of Kings is your best friend and he's with you, like that peace is worth more than anything like the world can offer. And my brother drinks and smokes a lot still, and he's actually getting a lot better, which is great, so praise God. But I remember saying and like telling this story to him because I don't drink or smoke anymore, and I'm like, I can confidently say that the fun that you can have like with God and like the peace that comes with it is better than like drinking and doing all those things. And I think it really makes him think, because I'm talking like I drank and smoke with him. Like he knows that I know that he knows how good it feels to go do those things and how fun it is, which is temporary fun, obviously, because usually you'll end up regretting it in the morning. But I think it's just so cool that God, like, in all honesty, gave us 7-Eleven as like a way to hang out and do something fun that's like honoring to him. And the first like semester or so, like we would go out to like In-N-Out afterwards, like after like a Bible study or something, and that's kind of like all the hangout that we did. But going to 7-Eleven, I think like really like developed our friendship.
Yeah, I think, you know, back to boredom and stuff like that and going out and the temptation of that, I think boredom is like one of the biggest gateways into temptation, because if you have nothing better to do, you're just gonna go back to the thing you want to stop and the thing that you used to do, because it's fun. I mean, I've never drank or gone to a party, so I can't speak on behalf of you, but I'm just kind of parroting what you said off of that. But I think for me in high school, I never did any of that, and then also when COVID happened, I also couldn't do any of that. And so with my friends, I ended up just staying up really late every night, calling on Discord and kind of doing what we do, except without the walk. Like we would talk about whatever, but also talk about God, talk about faith and stuff like that. And I think going into college, I really wanted to keep that. Obviously, I couldn't continue doing that with my friends from high school because, you know, some of us are in a different time zone, so staying up late won't work and it just wouldn't be the same. And also we're in different areas of our lives now where like that's no longer the thing that we can do every night. And so going into college, I really wanted something like that again. I wanted to be able to have late night conversations with people and it be really fun and also really uplifting spiritually. And God gifted me that with the 7-Eleven run. I think, you know, if I didn't have the 7-Eleven runs, I don't know how close we would be, because I feel like the majority of our hangout time came from 7-Eleven, at least for the second semester of freshman year, because like we would go to the library and stuff, but we weren't hanging out. We were doing homework and stuff.
I think like when we actually were able to like talk about things was like 7-Eleven, because it's like it's hard to talk like to a group of people about like what you're going through and stuff, but it's like when you have like a friend that like sticks closer than a brother, it's like it's really easy to share in those spaces.
Yeah, I think like on those walks we were able to talk about literally everything. Even like ongoing things that needed a resolution, we would kind of talk about it and come up with a plan of how to tackle it. And I think I really appreciate those conversations just because it calls me higher. It helps me figure out what to do. And it's also like we're talking to each other, but God is also there. And, you know, as the word says, like when two or more are gathered, I'm in the midst. And it's like, I know that in those conversations where we need help or we're helping one another figure out whatever it is that we need to figure out, I know God is with us and he's guiding those conversations. He's guiding us to call one another higher, and I just really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the thing that's like super cool is a lot of the time it's easy to surround yourself with yes men and people who are like, yeah, like this is good, like you go and do that and stuff. But sometimes like if I have a problem or I'm like dealing with something or vice versa, like I just start to rant about it and Jack will like listen and stuff, but he's like, okay, well, have you considered it from their perspective? And why they chose to do that. And at that point, I hadn't considered that, because I had no, like, I mean, I necessarily no time, you could say that, sure, but like I was so caught up in like anger or confusion or sadness that if I went and spoke to a person that I had an issue with, like in that moment, like I would have just done it in not a good way. I would have done it out of anger and stuff, and not had the opportunity to speak with Jack and like actually like get like another perspective from somebody that's not feeling the things that I'm feeling. And it says like to not be driven by emotion. And I think it's so cool that we're able to be honest with one another. Like if he's like, Jack, you're bugging about this, like I'm bugging about it because I haven't taken any time to like reflect and like kind of step back from the situation. And I think like a lot of the times for like Bible studies or anything, or like especially being in like a leadership position, like one of the main things that we focused on, which obviously we're not perfect at, but it's like it says to be blameless before God. And the idea of like not like if you have a problem with somebody, don't go in there and like scream and yell at them, like be blameless so that they can't like take what you do and like twist it in any sense. Because in your mind you think you're right if you're upset about something, and then you're like, no, but that justifies how I acted, and like that's why I swore at this person, that's why I called them names. But that's not what we're supposed to do. And I think that it's so cool we're able to like really just talk and have an opportunity to see things through. And like the Bible encourages us to do that and to go and like talk to somebody about it. I think that if you go in like to anything with emotions, like it's not gonna go the way you expect.
Yeah, I think you are also someone who calls me higher and doesn't just tell me what I want to hear. And it's humbling also to have another perspective that doesn't share the same emotion as you, because like if I have something going on, you're kind of in a neutral position where you're not just gonna tell me, oh yeah, everything you're saying 100% right, you're justified in everything you say and everything you do, but you'll like take it slowly and also just help me kind of come back to reality, come back to earth, and realize that I should see it more objectively. I think you're also really good at calling me higher in my relationship with God, because I know last semester I was not really engaging with God as much as I should have. And I know, you know, where it comes to either reading the word or praying and having fruitful prayers and getting into, you know, your non-negotiables about your relationship with God, I feel like you model it very well. And I was able to see that in you and also like have conversations with you about it. And you're able to like call me higher and like not just call me higher, but also understand where I'm coming from. Like I feel like through those conversations, I saw like the empathetic characteristics of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think perspective is basically everything, and allowing yourself to be ambiguous and be open to the fact that you're wrong. I think one of the things that I really struggle with is that I think I'm right 100% of the time and I'm never wrong, which is usually true. But I think it's really awesome that we're able to just like have these walks. And like this took like 45 minutes to explain all of this, but I don't think people will get why we go on these walks until they find like something to do for themselves that works for them. And like if you like to like shop, like go shop with somebody and talk with them and like make that your thing. But I'm just so grateful for these 7-Eleven runs.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's gonna do it for this episode. I want to shout out all the fellas for, you know, running up the numbers. We're 500K.
Oh my god.
So God is good, man.
Praise the Lord.
But as I'm looking at my computer screen right now, I literally see like in the corner like a photo of like 7-Eleven, and it's just like I'll pop it up on my computer screen like in the library or from like in the room and just like turn it around to Jack, and then he'll put on his shoes. So I want to shout out 7-Eleven. Hopefully, if you want us to be, if you want to give us a sponsorship, we're down for that.
So down.
We'll run up your numbers. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you in episode 5.
Goodbye.
Peace.